The motto for this Capricorn new moon is start before you're ready. Hi, and welcome to Water Within Astrology. My name is Carly, and if you haven't already, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. I am here every 2 weeks to talk to you about the full moons and the new moons. And we are celebrating the Capricorn new moon on Sunday, January the 18th, happening at 2:52 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please adjust your time according to wherever you're located on the planet. I want to just jump in by saying this is happening on a Sunday, which means a new moon on a Sunday is about setting goals for how you're going to appear in your daily life, and Capricorn is associated with long term, it's associated with discipline, it's associated with maturity, it's associated with time itself, the passage of time, the concept of time, the presence of time, and the weight of the knowing that we have a limited amount of time on this planet. So with that comes melancholy, and with that comes depression, and it comes with pressure in general. And we have the sun and the moon together at the last couple degrees of Capricorn, 28 degrees, and so the Capricornian Saturnian vibe is turned all the way up. And we see not only the sun and the moon there at the last couple degrees of Capricorn, but we have Mercury and Mars there as well at 26 degrees. Both of them are conjunct at 26 degrees. So we're going to talk about that Capricorn stellium quite a bit. We're going to talk about Saturn quite a bit, and we're going to talk about Venus as well, because Venus in this moment in time has just moved into Aquarius the day before the new moon, so on Saturn day, and into Aquarius, another Saturn ruled sign. Aquarius is ruled by Saturn and Uranus in modern astrology, and so we have a stellium, meaning 4 more planets in Capricorn, which are slowly progressing forward into the next Saturn rule sign of Aquarius. And these are personal planets, so we're feeling this more personally. So when we're all feeling this in our own way, depending on how it's landing in your chart, we can tend to maybe take it out on each other, and not knowing that we're all kind of feeling the same type of pain, feeling the same type of wounding, but we have it in our heads that we're the only ones who feels this way. We're the only ones who suffers in these ways, and we so isolate ourselves instead of getting to know people and getting to talk to people and share experience. And slowly, the more experiences you and conversations you have, you realize that other people suffer the same ways that you do. So you get to relate on your suffering. It's like the suffering brings you together and is what actually creates more of a solid depth foundation too for your relationship, because when you share those types of more vulnerable experiences with others, you feel like that deeper bond being formed instead of just people you small talk with, you know? So coming out of our shells and feeling like safe to come back to people again is going to be a big thing for this whole year, but especially maybe for this, because we have all that Capricorn opposite Jupiter in Cancer, and Cancer is the crab. So there's this feeling of wanting to protect ourselves. Jupiter blows up that feeling of wanting to stay safe, wanting to feel at home, wanting to... But so maybe we've exacerbated our ability to isolate and our ability to go it alone and, you know, like suffer in silence. And now we're at a point where we're like, okay, coming together is also an option. I need to put down my stubborn feelings about not wanting to come together, not wanting to connect, not wanting to whatever, maybe look weak or whatever it is that's stopping you and blocking you from the blocked emotions, or feeling stuck, or feeling that melancholy feeling if you're feeling that. And finally, find the courage to be vulnerable and to soften and to understand that we all do feel these ways. Like, these are all human emotions that we're all feeling, and the grief is real, and I think it's bigger than most of us realize. The cycles that are coming to an end right now, Neptune in Pisces for the past 14 years, knowing what we've been through as far as what our spiritual journey has looked like from 14 years ago. And I can say without a doubt that Neptune in Pisces has been absolutely incredible and so mystical, but also so hard and so full of deep lessons that now are coming to an end truly. And Neptune in Pisces is the happiest place for Neptune to be. And so what I see when it moves into Aries, and with Saturn being there as well, I see the archetype of the spiritual, unconditional love warrior emerging. And Saturn is that old wise man who has mentored us to this point and has been with us along the way, maybe helping us to have boundaries with this Neptune in Pisces, very hazy, very foggy realm. And maybe you can imagine Saturn being like Father Time, being this like old wise man who's been holding our hand through this lesson that we've been through. We've been with Saturn and Pisces for the past 2.5 years. And now we're at the end of like graduation time almost. And with Neptune in Aries, we're going out into the field now. Like, we're going down into the battlefield, and we've learned so much, and we've been through so much, and we have been training for this moment, and we know what to do now. And maybe up to this point it's all been in the imagination, right? It's all been speculation with Pisces, or it's all been maybe like on a screen. Like, we've seen movies like it or whatever, like, and we've been training in that way, or if there's been a screen involved in some other weird way, you know what I mean? Like, but I think what I'm trying to say is, like, the movies that we watch sometimes are like future movies, and the times that we're entering into now with Neptune and Aries, you know, maybe we've seen movies similar to these. I'm not gonna get too specific, but like, you know, movies like 1984, you know, anyways, yeah, there's one example. So using that as a reference to maybe if we're moving into a new time that is a little bit more dystopian, we can feel a little bit more prepared by these types of like movie simulations that have helped train us a little bit. And, you know, maybe that was the whole point of the movies in the first place, was like to plant seeds of dystopia in our minds. And so then we are somehow like more desensitized to when wars do happen, and we then are able to kind of like, oh, just treat it like a movie, like it's not real, because we've seen it in a simulation so many different times in different ways in the movies. Like, now that it's happening in real life, we're desensitized, and it's maybe the type of reaction they want from the movies. But anyways, that's kind of unrelated, kind of not, because Saturn in Pisces also is like, the rules are all blurry, right? Like, people might not be following the rules. There might be shady, like, underhanded, like, unseen and like manipulative stuff going on with structures, right? Saturn in Pisces is like, Saturn is the governments and the people in charge and the like big bosses, and in Pisces can be like trickery, and it can be like psychosis, and it can be, like conspiracy theories and stuff like that. Knowing that there is a mind game type of energy going on here at these last degrees of Capricorn, it's almost like the last attempt at winning in the power over structure game is this mind game psyop type of manipulation, where we truly do find out that all along it was a spiritual warfare, and now we've been training and training and training, and now things are getting real again. Things are hopefully feeling like a little bit more familiar, because we have been here before, and now we know the strategy and we know how to prepare and to train even more for this type of situation. We know how to prepare for the battle because we've been here before. With us being this familiar with this trigger point, these degree points of Capricorn, 28, 29 degrees, moving into Aquarius, we are familiar with the power over structures. We are familiar with these games that the government plays in order to stir up the anger, to stir up the emotions, to stir us up, and to create a frenzy, and to create outrage, and to create a reaction, and rightfully so, because we are deep empathetic beings that are, they count on us being caring and caring about humans no matter where they are. They count on us caring and throwing a fit when things are not going the way that we want them to, which is, we want everyone to be taken care of. We want everyone to have beautiful homes to live in, and well-being, and food on their plate, nourishing food. And we, rightfully so, are upset about what's going on in the world, the horrible events and tragedies that have been taking place in the week leading up to this new moon. But we are so familiar with this game that we've been playing with the powers that be, the Capricornian power over structures that want to keep control of us. And this is almost like how they prove that they are still in control, is that they can take things from us. They can take us down emotionally. They can attack families, and they can attack cultures, and they can attack people, groups of people on a whole, and we become outraged, because that is what we do when we are empathetic beings. And at the same time, we've had so many different social issues arise, mass hysteria arise in so many different ways and forms in the past 5 years specifically. And I know it's been going on before that, but in the past 5 years specifically, where we've been working with these specific degree points, we might also be very numb for what is going on. And because it's like one more, tragedy, one more disaster, one more this, one more that, and it's like our nervous systems are shot, and there's part of us that might just need to turn off and shut down in order to survive through it. And to, rightfully so, we should all be, if we're paying attention and we're not shutting down and we're not turning a blind eye, we should all be outraged. And the parts of us that aren't are the parts of us that are trying to survive. And maybe it's conscious, maybe it's not. But, you know, it's important for all of us to have compassion for the collective, even if they are not reacting the way that they should be reacting to these horrifying events, because we have been through it, and there's only so much that we have the ability to hold as far as our capacity goes, and that's why we do the work that we do, so we can widen our capacity to hold space for others. And to expect anyone to be able to hold the amount of atrocities and betrayals and injustices that we've been exposed to in the past 5 years is asking a lot. And so when we get upset at people and we tell them that they are heartless or they should care more or this or that, we tell people how to live their lives and how to deal with their own emotions and to have boundaries or not with certain situations. We need to check ourselves and check our ego, because at the same time, yes, it is totally, I think, the hope of all of us, for all of us to band together and to feel the big feelings around the events, but also to come together to find a solution. But the fact of the matter is that all we can ever control is ourselves and what we do about situations. And by shaming others or telling others the way to live their life, it creates more of a distance, right? It creates them to go further into their isolation, because if they're going to come together with a group and the group is just going to criticize them for not doing it right, then it's understandable that they would continue to isolate, because it's just like that evil, strict, stoic Capricornian archetype where it's like, you didn't do this, you didn't do the work, you didn't work hard enough. Instead, like, let us shift to that other side where it's gratitude, and we look down from the mountaintop and we see how far we've come, and we say, man, we were totally badass for making it through that mountain climb. Like, we were totally able to stay agile and stay light on our feet and stay aware of our surroundings and blah blah blah. Like, let's get into the gratitude as best we can. And I know that sounds so counterintuitive and actually probably a huge slap in the face to some people thinking or listening to this, because it's like, how can you tell me to be grateful in this moment where people are dying and, you know, things are happening that are just so horrifying and horrendous? It feels counterintuitive, but it is the most helpful thing that we can do to shift the frequency of planet Earth, is to stay on a frequency of well-being and grace and compassion, which is the most missing and needed medicine on this planet. It is so crucial that we stay compassionate and that we stay in a place of understanding and we stay out of shame, because shame is so toxic. We as a culture have now started to turn to shame before we turn to understanding. As far as policing each other goes, it's become really common, especially since COVID, to police each other, to go on the internet, make a comment on someone's post that's like, you know, someone on the opposite side of what you believe, you know. And it's really just gotten to a point of where we've dehumanized people, even though they are still people. It's because, like, you know, you don't really see that happening in real life, where people are going up to people in real life. Everybody's pretty fake in real life, and that integrity is just, like, not there. But online, we're seeing an even more toxic environment growing, and people are just being completely ruthless with what they're saying online. And, you know, there's an avoidance there too in using that kind of method where it's like, I don't have to actually take accountability for what I'm saying. I can just type and press send and forget about it and never reply. and, never even, like, think about it again. And we just never know what kind of damage those types of comments make. We never really think about how those can have really long-lasting effects too. And our avoidance is reflected in those types of interactions, and it also maybe creates that ripple effect where we avoid in real life, or we think that because we get away with it online, then we can get away with that in real life, if there is people like that in real life acting that way. Crazy. But so knowing that we are familiar with these degree points, knowing that we have been through these games, we have seen the mind games before, we can take refuge in knowing that everything that we encounter in this reality is transient, and it is temporary, and it is changeable. The nature of the universe is to change, and so knowing that this is not going to last forever, nothing does, and we can take refuge in that. And Saturn in Pisces happens on February the 20th, so 3 days after the Chinese New Year, the start of the Fire Horse year. And so enjoy this last little giant dose of Earth energy, because 2026 looks fiery and airy and hot. She looks hot. She looks fierce. She's Fire Horse year. And it just so happens that the Chinese astrology fire element is lining up with all the astrology. The outer astrology, for the most part, is shifting to fire and air. And so let's go through it. 2025 was a year of moving into new territory, but we had lots of retrogrades, and so everybody moved back except for Pluto. Pluto did not. Pluto in 2024 had November of that year was when Pluto moved into Aquarius for good. So we started 2025, Pluto in Aquarius, new territory still 1 month in. We also have Black Moon Lilith, which is the darkest point of the moon's orbit around the Earth, the farthest point away from the sun's light. And she represents the dark feminine archetype. She represents the scorned female, the betrayed energy, the feeling of wanting equality and never getting it, wanting justice and never getting it. And I think that feeling is very inflamed right now, especially with Black Moon Lilith moving into Sagittarius after being in Scorpio for a while, and now she's at 3 degrees of Sagittarius. She is making a sextile to Pluto at 3 degrees of Aquarius, and she is working with Pluto in order to destroy systems of inequality, to bring truth to the light, bring the darkness, bring the truth out of the darkness and into the light. And that is what Pluto does, brings things from the underground, the hidden realms, into the light, in order to promote transformation and long-lasting transformation, permanent transformation. And like we had said before, Pluto is conjunct Venus right now in Aquarius. So there's also that evening star version of Venus coming in to, again, honor the feminine, to truly be one more symbol of the divine feminine rising as far as it's reflected in the astrology. And so Black Moon Lilith in Sagittarius is the truth seeker and the truth teller. So whatever is going on right now that you feel is unjust and unfair, talking about it, using your voice, educating people, helping people to understand that the divine feminine has been hurt in one way or another, and she is tired of being told to sit down and shut up, and she is tired of accepting things being unjust, and tired of accepting that things are just the way they are, and she's disrupting, and she doesn't care about what anyone else thinks. She is gonna do what she needs to do to take her power back. And so even if that includes walking out of the garden, which is exactly what Black Moon Lilith did when she was told that she was going to be subservient to Adam, the first man in the creation story. That is what her myth is. We have Uranus back in Taurus now, even though it made its debut in Gemini and will be back in Gemini in April. We have Saturn and Neptune, of course, moving into Aries, fire sign. On that 20th of February, we have Jupiter moving into Leo in June, on the June 30th. North Node is going to be moving into Aquarius on the 26th of July. So we'll have North Node, air sign. South Node is going to be in Leo, a fire sign. So we'll talk about what that means throughout the year as well. And then we, of course, have Chiron moving out of Aries and into Taurus on June 19th, 2026. So Chiron still being in Aries will be working with that Saturn and Neptune for at least 3 months there in while they're there together from February to June. But then Chiron will be moving back into Aries in September. So we will be coming back to that energy. And I want to talk about how Capricorn is normally associated with the CEO, Big Daddy Saturn, but it is actually a feminine earth sign. It is a cardinal sign, so it initiates, and so I think initiation itself is more of a masculine energy as well, which I think is another reason Capricorn is mostly known for being a man, or a big CEO man or entrepreneur. Could also be like the pastor. Normally that's more like Sagittarius, but in Capricorn it could be like the Pope, even where Capricorn rules over church structures as well. Sag rules religion and beliefs, but Capricorn is more like the structure and like the hierarchy aspect of the church, where someone has to be the leader. And so it can also be associated, of course, with like the stoic, like mean dad energy, you know, and that can be very associated with pastors as well too, and how they're like disapproving, and it's like you have to follow strict rules, and like you have to live up to expectations and stuff like that. Like that's very Capricornian, Big Daddy Saturn vibes. So we just had a Venus Cazimi and a Mars Cazimi, and then a Venus-Mars conjunction, and we are going to be having a Mercury Cazimi as well. So we've got those 3 planets resetting. We've got them in Capricorn, all very closely tied together, and we have them shifting their archetype energy. For instance, Venus is entering into her evening star phase. She is more soft in her evening star phase. She is very Aphrodite-like, very yin. And when she's in her morning star phase, she's more of the war goddess type of energy. So we're having Venus freshly into Aquarius moving into her evening star phase, her more yin phase. In Aquarius, she's leading the way. She's leading the pack of Venus, Mars, Mercury into the Aquarius stellium that we'll have come February. And maybe even at the end of the month we'll have it, because she's already there. And she is coming up to Pluto at 3 degrees of Aquarius. And so when Venus and Pluto come together, Venus is craving depth. She is wanting to realign with her soul. She is meeting up with Pluto to check in and make sure that before she moves forward, what direction she's moving in is good for her soul. And, in Capricorn, she plans ahead, and in Aquarius, she does plan ahead because Saturn is still there, and she is very future oriented in Aquarius. In fact, she is maybe even looking so far into the future that gives her the perspective that she needs to make a plan now. And so with Capricorn being an earth sign, taking action could be very important as far as in our relationships with Venus, and with Pluto taking our power back if we feel that the situations that we're in have been taking our power away from us or taking us away from our soul's mission. With Pluto, really just something might need to die when Pluto is present. So if something does need to fall away, know that it is working as compost for the new to come in, and it might be a painful process, but it is a permanent transformation with Pluto. And so it can be painful. It can be uncomfortable and deep, and like a deep cut or deep pain. But hopefully with Venus being there, she is softening, like we said, going into that evening phase, and she is moving forward after being renewed by the rays of the sun in her Cassimi, and she met up with Mars as well already to, make sure that any hostilities have been softened as well, and forgiven perhaps, and maybe even like things have come up for the first time, and now you're having to reckon with what's being felt, like any anger or what, like, hurt that she's carrying. And so now she moves forward and she leads the pack of the rest of the personal planets, and she gives us a preview of what we will be seeing in the next few weeks as we move into eclipse season. With, like I said, the North Node is going to be in Aquarius, and that means we're starting to be in eclipse season after this new moon, so because the sun will be in Aquarius. And that's gonna be where we have our full moon. It'll be a new moon in Aquarius, but we'll have a full moon in Leo in the next couple weeks, so that will be interesting because that'll be at the new year, the new lunar year. And so let's get into talking a little bit more about Capricorn and what it rules over and what vibes we are feeling right now. Like I said, we are at the end of a big cycle, and we have trained for this, and we are becoming the spiritual, unconditional love warrior. And maybe with our guru there, we are feeling like a master Jedi status has been achieved, and so moving forward into the future with confidence and with the knowledge and wisdom that we've gained through our hardships. And even though maybe we're feeling melancholy, we're also feeling prepared, and we're feeling like weathered in a good way, where we've paid our dues, and now we know like the lessons that we've learned are invaluable, and we've gained that knowledge through the hardships, and so it was what hard earned, and we wear those badges of honor as, like, we've maybe, gotten the certification or mastery, whatever, in some status, because Capricorn is also ruling of status or wealth or whatever. And the added bonus is that we are really familiar with this cusp of 28, 29 degrees of Capricorn, because that is where Pluto was lingering for most of 2023, 2022. We saw it retrograde and go back and forth, and then it finally in 2024 was when it moved out of Capricorn and into Aquarius. And so we remember the energy of this transition of Capricorn into Aquarius. We have been here before, and with Venus there now in Aquarius, maybe she's bringing a healing energy with her to help heal the wounds of the past, because we really are letting go of so much in the past 14 years, Neptune moving into Aries. We are needing that extra soft, compassionate energy. Jupiter in Cancer opposite this new moon, really just beaming its unconditional love and care and compassion to us when we need it the most, when we're the most tender and we're the most unwilling to share, and maybe we just need that. Because Capricorn has the tendency to just be so hard on itself and to never acknowledge how far it's come, and only to just keep looking at the next status, like give me more, and can become insatiable. And with Aquarius moving into the North Node, it's going to be an insatiable thing too with the Aquarius energy, because that's North Node. It's the head of the dragon. It's what we're going to be consuming, and the trouble we want to try to avoid is becoming insatiable with those types of qualities. And with Aquarius, it's definitely technology, and the technology that we're consuming on a daily basis. You're consuming it right now watching this video. And so that's just a warning too. Of course, technology is just one aspect of Aquarius, but I think that's going to be a big one. Becoming more cold and distant and further isolating ourselves is definitely going to be one of those too. So those are the dangers we look for with Aquarius. And then the things that we want to lean into about Aquarius is the innovation, the ability to be inventive and to be able to think outside the box and to be authentically itself, and that being its superpower, and realizing that our superpower is being authentically who we truly are. That is what we're here to do, and that is what brings us the most joy and the most satisfaction and the most fulfilling and high quality life. And Capricorn loves high quality, it loves luxury. It is very associated with money, and like it's normally the big boss guy, so it's the guy who makes all the money because he's done the work, he's built the status, he's climbed the ladder, he's climbed the mountain. And so, quality is really maybe something that we're redefining right now. And, maybe we're feeling unfulfilled by the materialistic world, and we're moving into different ways of satisfaction with maybe how we're spending our money and what we're investing in versus what we used to invest in that has been maybe unfulfilling, unsustainable, maybe in some way. Something maybe that we've just simply outgrown, like with we've changed and time changes us. And so feeling that, and like maybe just kind of reminiscing about how things used to be. And Capricorn is associated with ancestral ways and the old ways of doing things, and going back to doing things slow and doing things it is a very like power over structure dominant, and Aquarius is that grassroots energy. And so maybe if we are going back to our old ways, to honor ancestral ways in one way or another, like coming back to a slow living way of life, we also make sure and remember that the Pluto in Aquarius now is very much power to the grassroots ways of living. And so bringing it back to the community, back to our neighborhoods and our our direct local community, instead of giving our power back to the corporations. Like I hopefully at this point have learned the lessons that Pluto and Capricorn put us through, where we saw, with COVID, all the small businesses shutting down, all the corporations just getting a big leg up, and still we're seeing a lot more small businesses close down. We're of course seeing a lot of the Capricorn energy manifest, like war, and that was the Mars influence with Cassimi. I think it being on the sun being very powerful, and that being when we had the terrible tragedy in the United States, and we also had the terrible tragedy of the shutdown in Iran, and all these things happened at once, and it was very intense, and we're still moving through it, and we're still shaken up, and we're still trying to recalibrate and keep our steady footing. That's what Capricorn is good at, is keeping its steady footing even when we're on the edge of a mountain cliff and we're wobbly and we're really high up, and we might even, like, at any moment plummet to our death. Like, there's a deep awareness around the risk that we take when we keep going forward, and we choose to acknowledge the fear and not let it run our story, and not let it run the show. And we keep going. And Capricorn is really good at that. And because it's been there before, it's wise, and it has been there before. And it has Neptune there to keep it connected to the spiritual realm, to keep it connected to faith, and keep going even when everything's been hazy and fuzzy and very unsure. Capricorn learns the rules, and it knows the rules of things so that it can break the rules in Aquarius. And then in Aquarius, we take the power back. We built a structure, perhaps, of power over in Capricorn, and then Aquarius says, actually, now that I know that I can build it, I feel confident in knowing that I can build it again if I destroy it. Aquarius is definitely like the tower energy. But Aquarius is actually related to the star card in tarot. And Capricorn is related to the devil card. And so one more reason Capricorn tends to get a bad rap is because it's the sign of the sea goat, and the goat is typically related to the devil. And so that is why it is the devil card in the tarot. And Capricorn also is, of course, that colder sign ruled by Saturn. And, it's the coldest part of the year. Aquarius is the coldest sign, but Capricorn is very cold, very barren, very lifeless, very and it has to be, because that's how you get to the top of the ladder, right? Like, that is how you do business is you have to be cold and calculated, and you can't be having emotions get in the way of your business deals and whatnot. That's not how you make money, according to the corporations. And so, with Capricorn being the goat, it is also related to the god Pan, which is a half goat, half man. And Pan was the god of partying, of music. He played a flute, and he was always hanging out with Dionysus. And his name, Pan, is where we get the word panic. And the word panic is related to Capricorn feelings, because Capricorn worries that Capricorn is the time of the winter where nothing is growing, and there is an association with money there, with it being an earth sign, being attached to the material world, to our work, to 10th house, the place of work, and normally the midheaven, which is sometimes our career. We are being asked to shift our mindset away from a lack mentality and to remember that we are allowed to accept good things, and like we deserve good things, and move into that luxurious type of Capricorn where it wants a classic look to it. It wants the finer things in life because it knows that life is short, and that's why it's been building its empire and legacy the way that it has, right? That's why it's been climbing the ladder and doing all the work so that it can enjoy the fruits of its labor. And so don't miss out on that part. And yes, we have a long way to go. Yes, we are beginners, but don't forget to acknowledge how far you've come at this point in our journey. And so feeling those feelings too around, the economy is really bad right now. Like, let's get realistic. Like, the world that we live in is very uncertain with that, all the Pisces energy. The uncertainty is there. With that energy. And now, how can we hold on to a structure when the structure itself, Saturn, has been being dissolved in Pisces for the past 2.5 years with Neptune, like giving it that extra punch of dissolving, of haziness, of mysticism, of bringing a dose of spirituality as well to that realm of humanity where it has been too rigid, too selfish, too unfeeling, too far away from our empathetic and compassionate nature that we all have within us, humanity. And so with it being in Pisces and with it being there with Neptune, I hope that a lot of us have gotten to a point where we understand that we don't want those types of archetypes of Capricorn. We don't want a power over structure. We don't want to be treating employees like numbers. We don't want to underpay employees so that the billionaires can have more money. We don't want any of the problems that we've seen with that Capricorn archetype with Pluto and Capricorn for so long. And now we're waking up. We've been waking up. We know the story now, and we are holding people accountable, and we are hopefully bringing the spiritual part of the world and part of living back into those places that need it the most, right? Those places that need unconditional love and compassion and softening and dissolving and all those things. Hopefully we can forgive people that have hurt us, that have caused us to act in this way, and that are the reason that we developed those coping mechanisms and that mask and whatever it is that we've been holding on to, that we're now being told it's okay for us to put it down so that we can move on and we can move into our next chapter with a clean slate. And it's really difficult, and we've been this way for a long time. These are old cycles, and long cycles, drawn out cycles that have been, all of us have had our own journeys, and all of us have been through our lessons, and so it's been rough, and we just really can continue to give ourselves that grace and compassion, and we can continue to look forward to the beautiful things that are coming ahead of us, and be grateful for where we are first and foremost, always being grateful so that we can move forward, because we can't move forward from a place of lack. We can only move forward from a place of gratitude. And so that is, I think, what we have for us. And I hope that we can all enjoy this Capricorn new moon, because we really are going to be moving into a lot of fire from here on out the rest of the 2026 year. Let's first draw a rune and see what we get there. Where are they? There they are. This time I did not draw a rune on my candle because I already had a lot of symbols to draw on there. I drew Neptune, Saturn, Capricorn, Jupiter, Cancer, Aquarius, all of those on there. So I did not have any more room for a rune. Okay. Okay. Thurisaz means giant, thorn, or danger. And it is reversed compared to what I have here written in my codes. So I'm hoping that means the danger is behind us. I'm hoping that means that the giant, like the giant conglomerates and the thorn in our side, is passing and we're moving into a new reality where everyone agrees that everybody deserves a high quality of life, not just the billionaires. Hopefully, yeah, the danger is behind us, and we have learned with Jupiter and Cancer how to prioritize our safety and to really see maybe too for the first time how unsafe things have been. And that's shocking and that's painful to even come to that realization. So giving ourselves what we need, the care that we need around that wound and that feeling. And for today's tarot reading, it's going to be an oracle reading for my animal oracle deck. So let us see which animal we get here today for this Capricorn new moon here on YouTube, this reading. What do we need for this collective? Ooh, love this. The deer. I obviously always think of Capricorn when I think of deer because it's winter. I see deer out in the snow a lot in the park by my house. It's Christmas time. It's the sign of Christmas. But so there's also just this, what deer can be the forest spirit in Princess Mononoke. There's this kingly forest spirit energy. It's also in Fantasia 2000 where it's the stag is this representation of all animals in the forest, and so there's this kingly energy with the crown of horns. And it's funny that rune was thorns and now we have horns. Again, the goat has horns as well. Goats and deer are pretty different, but also semi-similar. Would have been crazy if we got the goat. Okay, here we go. Instinctual energy, independence, and regeneration are the key words for deer. Already getting, instincts. Capricorn is panic, what we operate from fight or flight when we're working from the hindbrain, and we can only work from instinct. We're not thinking critically. We're not up here in the frontal cortex. Independence, Capricorn, Saturn, isolation, being the underdog, being someone who thinks no one understands, blah, blah, blah. And regeneration, Capricorn being kind of associated with death as well, because, you know, it's time and the passing of time and old people and the way time decays us and such and such. So, let's read here what it says. Graceful, swift, and elusive, the deer has symbolized the powers in nature that are not easily subdued. A deer's antlers, which are shed and regrown each year, are specifically associated with regeneration and renewal. A swift deer with golden antlers was sacred to the Greek goddess Artemis, whose realm was the wilderness and instinctual untamed things, another guardian of the forest. Untamed things, Capricorn being the wild feminine, the dark wild feminine that can endure and can feel the full spectrum of emotion, and she honors the darkness and like the wisdom there, and the winter and the period of incubation that the winter is. A deer is also a symbol that summons individuals to a calling or journey, cardinal sign, initiating. It has frequently appeared in legends and myths as a creature which lures a hunter or knight into the wilderness. In the legend of King Arthur, a deer leads Sir Gawain into the wood to begin his adventures. Funny, so funny. This is like just a personal connection I'm making with this card, but Sir Gawain, the word Gawain in Old English is now Gavin. They changed it to Gavin in modern day, and that is my boyfriend's last name, and we talk about him being connected to Sir Gawain. And he's a Capricorn Aquarius cusper too. Like, that's not the best part. The best part is his birthday is the first day of Aquarius season. And he also has Capricorn and Aquarius, just about 2 stelliums. Anyways, so I'm very familiar with that border of Aquarius Capricorn cusp. So funny. So there's that. I think I've said everything I wanted to say, and I really truly do hope that we are all processing what we needed to process and not avoiding, because Capricorn Aquarius can be very avoidant. Let's lean into the feelings, even if they're uncomfortable. Let's lean into the work and the responsibility that we have to do our work, because Capricorn is about responsibility. And yeah, prepare for this new energy of fire and air coming in 2026. Prepare for eclipse season coming up next month. And I will see you in 2 weeks. If you would like a reading with me, please comment below. I also would love it if you haven't already, subscribe and like this video. Send it to someone if you think it would resonate with them, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.